Shalom, beloved, and hopefully everyone is doing wonderful today. Normally, as I'm on my travels, running my lanes throughout the week, the Most High allows me to see things, or He reveals things to me. Otherwise I would not be able to see because of the noise. And usually, again, like I said, when I get home, I would greet my wife. I would have prayer, thanking the Most High for not only His safe travels, but His blessings, His gifts, His word. So anyway, as I'm sitting on while I'm sitting on the back porch, I would reflect. I would reflect on the different revelations that I had received, and again, try my best to make more sense or get more clarity out of, why did He reveal these things, or why did He allow me to see these things. So on one particular day this week, I got a phone call from a relative, from a cousin, and he had a question. Two-part question. And the question was, how is it that our people can read the Bible and not make the connection that we are the children, or that we the descendants of the people that's in the Bible? Number one. And number two, how is it that our people will read the Bible and also break every law, every commandment, break every rule in the Bible, right? And I said, that's a good question. That's a very, very good question. Oh, praise the Most High. Now, before I get into my answer, what I gave him, let me lay down, this my experiences, my awakening, right? If I can say that. When the Most High woke me up, when He allowed me to make the connection and see, who we are as a people according to the Bible, according to the word of the Most High, the words of the Most High. I was going through a lot, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, so on and so forth, right? I was confused, I was angry, I was upset, I was happy. Again, and I would explain what I was going through to certain relatives, and they would just look at me and I was confused. They was like, they couldn't get it. But when I would give my testimony to other brothers and sisters that was going through the same transition, or making the same connection, many of them would have the same experiences. They could relate. But anyway, along my journeys, I've met a lot of brothers and sisters from different organizations, assemblies, camps, so on and so forth. But there's one brother, he laid down a foundation, right? He would teach us the Hebrew from what he know. He was very knowledgeable. But he laid down this principle, and this principle was, Hebrew is a concrete language, and English is an abstract language. So we have to think like a Hebrew, right? Making the cultural connections and so on and so forth. And we would break down the alphabet, maybe a verse or even chapters. Sometimes it would take hours, days to really get a deeper understanding, right? We would dig deeper than the surface that we were taught in English. So this brother laid down a real good foundation. And my Hebrew is not as well as his, number one, but it should be a lot better than where I'm at. Again, I'm just being honest. But again, I still have a lot of growing, still have a lot of learning to do. And I'm humbled that the Most High still has His patience with me. But anyway, back to my answer. You know, my cousin. You know, we were dealing with the question that my cousin asked me. So I said, well, it's because they're reading the Bible. And he paused. And he says, well, that's what I'm asking you. How is it that they can read the Bible and not make the connection, and they're so willing to break the laws and the commandments in the Bible, and you tell me because they're reading the Bible? I don't get it. I said, well, let me explain. I said, the word Bible comes from the Greek word biblios, and the word Bible just means books. I read Torah. The word Torah is a Hebrew word. I said, now, even though the word Hebrew is English and it comes from the Greek word Hebraicus, the word Hebraicus is a corruption of the word Eve. I said, and the word Torah is instructions, right? It's instructions, it's rules, it's guidelines. And when you understand the difference between guidelines and rules and instructions versus just reading a book, right? For example, like say if you had to, somebody gave you a novel to read, again, you probably would read it and, you know, maybe enjoy what you're reading or not or what have you. But if somebody gave you a contract, it's a different mindset. You know, in this contract, especially when you're trying to broker a deal, you're trying to get a better interest rate, or you're trying to get a lower payment, or again, you're trying to get, you know, you're trying to find out what are you getting and what are you giving up, right? Is it a value? If is the trade, you know, does the trade has equity, right? Is there equity in this deal? You know, and again, that's the way I approach it. And he paused, and he was like, again, that makes a lot of sense. Now, again, not that I'm perfect. Again, like I said, I have a lot of learning, a lot of growing to do, but that's my approach. See, the reason why our people, my people, don't get the effect of the Bible that we should get collectively as a people, because we don't realize that, again, this is a trust, this is a treaty, this is, again, a Caesarean treaty, right? Covenant between a greater power, the Most High, and a lesser power, the children of Israel. But when we approach it as a book or novel, and then our people, you know, I've had this conversation with many of my people, and they say, well, I don't really get that deep into it. It's really not that serious. It really don't matter, because they don't look at it like a contract, an agreement, a covenant, commandments, a trust. You know, there's nothing you're going to lose when you're dealing with a novel. But when it's a contract, you can lose your life, or, you know, again, like you look at the mortgage or your car or what have you. You know, whatever you are negotiating, you risk losing something. In this case, you know, your freedom, your life. Again, you know, this is about a promise of land, of culture, language, being redeemed, being restored, right? And what people need to be restored more than anybody. Everybody else has theirs. But when you speak to our people like this, it's like they would rather just dismiss it, because this is what they've been conditioned to just accept the narrative that the adversary, the slave master, has given us. And they're willing to again dismiss this birthright, right? I mean, let's make it make sense. Let's look at the behaviors of certain people in the Bible, right? Using what they're familiar with. Let's look at the behavior of certain people in the Bible that had that mindset. What good is that birthright, right? And again, this is why we don't get the effect of it that we should, because we would rather be connected to religion. The Most High did not give us religion. And our people, my people, were so eager to please everybody else but the Most High. Again, this is why I say when they read the Bible like a book, when they read it again like a book, instead of instructions, again like a novel. Most of these characters in the novel are fictional characters and stuff like that. Again, this is why when our people come out of organized religion and they realize they have been lied to, manipulated, that's what they'll say. Whether the people in that book are fictional, and stuff like that. Because again, this is their mindset. They don't. It's not. Your forefathers passing down not only a legacy or inheritance, but identity. But anyway, family, like I said, as I began to explain this to him, it made sense. And like I said, it's not to offend anybody or to make it seem like I know everything. I'm so smart. Again, I'm still learning. We all are learning. That those of us that really are truly seeking, you know, the instructions and the guidelines and of the words of the Most High. You know, that's why we say we know. People say they believe, but belief doesn't establish a fact. It doesn't make it right. Doesn't make it, correct. But anyway, family, with that being said, as usual, peace, love, shalom.